We're building a $150,000 passive property portfolio live. Warts and all, every single step of the way. We have just purchased, Jeff and I have gotten together. We were having a couple of beers and we were saying, what do we want? What did we want when we were starting out on our property investing journey? And what we wanted was to see how the stuff was done. So we said, screw it, let's do it. So we set an ultimate goal of $150,000 in passive income, and we are taking you guys through step by step how we're going to do it. And we jumped ahead. In June, we bought $2 million worth of property. We bought 3 properties that are giving us a total income of $113,000, and we are going to share the exact steps of how we're going to do it and how we're going to get to our end goal. This session is the session that we wished that we had, and you guys get access to all of it. We're open book. We will share this all online so you can see the numbers, and we will grow this portfolio because it's ours the way that we would like to do it, and you can learn and grow along the way. So if you are interested in property investing, if you get value and want to learn how property investing works, that's what we're here for. Hey everyone, my name is Joe Tucker, and together with Jeff Miles, we created Australia's largest property investment community with over 76,000 property investors on there. Each week we interview top property experts and we unpack their insights and expertise. And this week it's Jeff and I. There's no guest. It is just us talking through our investment property portfolio that we've just created and going through how we're going from $0 to $150,000 in passive income. So far, we've got $2 million under acquisition, and we're going to keep going. This is unfortunately not a get-rich-quick scheme. This is a get-rich-slow scheme. So if you're interested about learning warts and all the challenges that we've faced with, how much money we're putting in, how much cash, what negative cash flow we're carrying, what the debt-to-income service ratio is, what is everything that encapsulates this portfolio, you're going to love it. Stick around, jump into the session. Let's go. So the first thing that you have to do as a property investor is think about property strategy. So the way that we talk about property strategy is really starting from here, right? We need to identify where we are. You can see little handsome Jeff and Joe. Where are we right now? What assets, resources, liabilities, borrowing abilities, capacity, service abilities? What things have we got here? And where do we want to end up? What is the ultimate goal? Where do we actually want to end up? Because if you don't know where you're going, you'll end up there, right? So you need to have an end goal. And then the goal is to build a path to get there while, doing it in a time frame that's accessible within a risk profile that you have. So one of the things to mention is my risk profile is very, very high. I think we'll see some of these deals that we talk about here, and your then purchasing profile of what type of properties that you're going, and then also your time and ability. What abilities have you got to create value? So if you don't have any time and you don't have any ability to create these type of assets where you add value, it's going to have to be a longer path to get to your end outcome. What do you reckon, Jeff?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, absolutely. I mean, even in our conversation the other day, because we sort of set this up and said, oh yeah, let's just go and do it. Like we didn't but even having conversation the other day about how much buffer each of us want to have, and that's indicative of our risk profile and how comfortable we are, and even on our time and our ability. I suppose Joe and I are fairly similar in what we want to do, and we're sort of pretty aligned in our strategy. Like we both love adding value. We've both done developments and renovations, but even that, like Joe might be more comfortable doing a 1:8 subdivision, whereas I might be, look, I want to stick to my building duplexes. So it's kind of understanding and taking yourself through that scenario. But it's the other thing as well is what is your capacity? Like how much negative of a portfolio can you hold? And that'll be dictated by the bank, because if you're not comfortable a portfolio being 50K sort of negative per year, or if you don't have the capacity to do so, then that's going to impact how quickly you can go as well. So that's what and how where you what your strategy will be too. What's our loose kind of foundation we're setting for it, Joe?
So essentially, it's buying a property that has value add potential. We then eventually get to the point where we're ready to consolidate, and then we will start doing and unfreezing the equity and doing the subdivision, doing the developments, doing the granny flats, utilizing the equity that we have to be able to put a granny flat on, do the development. That's then going to give us more increased income. And then we will either sell down the portfolio entirely, add the subdivisions, sell them off, keep them, develop it, blah, 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 get the growth, and then convert that into the cash flow, which is the shortest amount of time. So this is where a lot of people are right now, but it gets exciting because you are going to eventually get to that consolidation phase where you need to destroy the debt.
Talking to the first property and it's in Melbourne.
Melbourne.
And when we say, so this one is a really foundational sort of property, and it has some value add as well, though. So that's what I love about it. When we say 3 to 4 conversion, what that means is a 3-bedroom to a 4-bedroom for those not the cool kids with the lingo. So maybe we just need to start calling it 3 into 4, mate. And then people, but that's actually a development term as well. I don't know who's doing a 3 into 4.
Key point that I want to show here is that you've got like the gross not gross, but the parquet flooring that's not real parquet, it's just lino. This is what we would call like an ugly duckling, right? It's perfectly move-in ready now. The kitchen is dated. It's got gross tiles there. Look at the oven. It's 100 years old. Pretty isn't profit, right? So just don't get scared of these type of assets because there's value in them. Next, why Melbourne? March 2021, Victoria introduced 133 new tenancy policy changes, increasing cost and reducing owner and investor control. That's not good. In July 2023, they implemented a windfall tax on land rezoning, making properties more expensive to build and created more delays. What does that mean for supply? Hello, limited supply. The Premier had prolonged threats of rental caps and freezings that shook investor confidence, and they then eventually reneged on them. The government pulled out and was like, oh, actually, no, we shouldn't do that. January 2024, this is a big one. Increased land tax on second properties, lowering the land tax threshold to $50,000, which impacts 615,000 property investors. The next one is they introduced a 7.5% short stay accommodation tax on and a vacant land tax starting at 1% increased annually. Right? These guys, Victoria, this is part of the reason why over the last 2 years, Victoria has not grown, right? But these all have ramifications. Thousands of investors have left Victoria. By March 2024, there are 15,607 fewer rental properties in Victoria, leading to less available stock and higher rents. So these rents that we're seeing out there in the market are starting to increase. We are starting to see, as there's 15,000 fewer people available, this is why we are buying in Victoria right now. Do you want to be buying at the top of the market, or do you want to be buying in the bottom of the market? One thing to mention, though, is that I don't believe in the next 6 months that Victoria is going to do too much. You're able to get great properties at great rates that you can do good deals on and negotiate really hard. Well, this is one of the things that raises pretty well. Elijah's jumped in here. That's a 3.2% yield. That's absolute rubbish. That's how I imagine you sound, Elijah. If you do not sound that way, I apologize.
I don't think he does.
I don't think he does. So we purchased this property. As you can see, it was an off-market deal, right? So you need to build agent relationships. You need to chat with the agents that are selling the cheap deals and have that conversation and try and get access to their properties. We purchased this property for $610. We did a pest and building. There were a couple of things that we spoke about. Got a negotiation discount of $4,000. Yeah, $4,000. But the work, it does need $20,000 of renovation. So this property, if it sold on the market, would have sold for about $640,000. So we got it at a discounted rate of $606, but we need to put $20,000 into it. It was already tenanted. So the reason why this property was off market was because it had a tenant in there. So if the vendor took this property to market, he wouldn't be able to sell it because there's a tenant in place, and no one wants a tenant that's paying $380 a week rent. That's the reason why I got an incredible discount. It's not because I'm a great negotiator, which I absolutely am, but it is because of the situation. Like why it's a good deal, why it works, right?
I told you there was 80K in it, at least 80K.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the reason why we bought this property is we paid 610,000 for a 3-bedroom property. The true value of this is that we can add a wall, and as you can see, let's just kind of do the math together. 600. So what is it? 590. A 4-bedroom is worth 681. So we go 681 minus 606,000. We have $75,000 worth of equity there that we are creating by converting this thing into a 4th bedroom. So this is what value add doesn't. And guess how much that wall is going to cost? $5,000 of that $20,000 reno. So it isn't going to be much. So that's the key point here. So let's have a look. We are buying the property for $606,000. We are using $119,000 of cash. Plus, we're going to do the $20,000 reno. We haven't done it yet. It's in the process of getting done. And then the rent is going to be whatever that is, 19,760.
It's approximately 420, Joe.
Oh, no, that's what it is now. Oh, that's what it is now. Cool. Yeah, so that's what the rent is now. We got it rented with a tenant already in place. That tenant has now left because we said, great, we're going to renovate this. Can you please get out? They're like, yeah, we don't want to pay the extra. We'll see you later. So then doing this $20,000, we're going to spend $20,000 and we're going to get $60,000 back, right? The new value of adding this one wall and doing the renovation is going to give us $58,000 in renovation uplift. So we are spending $1 and we're getting $3 back, and the rental property will increase to $26,000. So it will now be,
which I think is around $420 a week, roughly, maybe $430.
Right.
Could be wrong.
$500 a week, which is
there you go, public math.
Public math.
Property 2 in Townsville and a subdivision. We love a good subdivision, don't we? And I made a good amount of money on a subdivision.
Why do we love Townsville, Jeff? Why Townsville?
Well, for me, we did that data deep dive in Townsville in 2022, which I looked at a suburb called Annandale, and I've been to Cairns, not Townsville, so I'm not saying Cairns is Townsville. Townsville's not Cairns. But I sort of looked at that, and it was sort of sitting around that sort of 350, 380 mark at that time. And I looked at it and I thought, there's some value here for me. And that was sort of two years ago. And I was even sort of starting to look at the start of 2023. And even then, you could sort of start to see a little more interest coming in, and the days on market was coming down. The yield was still fantastic. Yes, you've got the Townsville tax. But for me, if you can secure, it's almost become as hot as Perth because investors have started to pile in. But for me, where we saw value and see value is where you can move. You absolutely have to move quickly. If you can secure something and create that almost instant equity. It sounds like a little bit clickbaity, but that's what I love about the ability to build that base even quicker. Because if you can negotiate really well in a hot market, you're already seeing that sort of equity pile up in your portfolio. What do you like it, Joe?
Very true, mate. All of those reasons and above. The true value of this deal itself, it's kind of hard to see in the view, but it's corner block. It also has subdivision potential with plans, loose, dodgy plans already drawn up. But
is it 800 square meters? How many square meters is this one? Or
is a 2-bed, 1-bath property on 880 square meters. So we spoke to the town planners and guys, and we can subdivide and put an extra dwelling on there. So it's a nice little set and forget property. So let's just jump to the numbers. This is actually a really good point. This property is a 2-bed, 1-bath property, and we paid $435,000 for this property. So what the deal looked like. So let's chat to the deal itself. This was an on-market deal. So when you're monitoring a market, you've got to jump on stuff quick. This agent was out of town. I've never seen him pop up before. He jumped up on there, and I was like, hey mate, got this. I'm ready to buy this deal. He was from out of town where it's a lot slower, and he's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we've got a deal done already. How much do you want for it? And he had it on there for $435, I think. And I'm like, great, I'll pay $435. Every day of the week, this thing was worth 450,000. If you want to get greedy and try and go for a 410, he's just going to be like, nah, the vendor wants 435. He wants the price, and you're going to lose the opportunity. So moving fast, speed kills on deals, and don't get greedy. So we bought it for 435. Why do we like it? Set and forget, move in ready. Corner block, subdivision potential, and it has the ability to turn it into a 3-bedroom. Now, that has a question mark. Build a wall. Joe, why would you build a wall? Well, let's look at the numbers. Should we build a wall, Jeff? The answer is no. We paid 435. The median house price for a 3-bedroom property is less than what we paid for the 2-bedroom property, right?
Yeah, the value really here is in the land that you have that ability to sort of chop off the back, because it is pretty much, you've got that back. I mean, from memory, you got enough. What is the back sort of 300, 350?
No, that's 405 and 471.
There you go. So it is one of those classic splitter blocks in Queensland.
Yeah. So buying 430 in Townsville right now for a 2-bedroom, absolutely not going to happen. Good luck. This property's worth about $480,000 right now, right? So we've already got instant equity. So let's jump into it. We've spent 117,000 in cash. We probably didn't need to put so much cash in. The reason we put so much cash in, so one of Jenny's questions is like, no, not everyone has $105,000. Yeah, this is what's that LVR? What's the LVR of that?
LVR on it would be around 76% roughly.
So
76,
yeah,
maybe.
So we would have decided based on the lending, we would have gone into a stupid amount of interest rates. So we needed to put more cash in. But this is 435,000. You could go out there today and buy something like this. And it would
about 60,000 roughly.
At about 60,000, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one of the points to make is right now, there's not really anything that's going to add value to this property portfolio. It is a growth location. Townsville is a very hot market. That's where the value is. We're buying in a good property at a good location at a good time. Midterm, we could add a wall, slight value increase, slight rent increase. To be honest, it's going to be very tight and probably not an ideal layout, but really the true value is the future value add. Now, I'm not a developer. I've developed, don't get me wrong, I've done development deals, but I don't know, like we did the minimum lot size. We understand that it can be developed, but I don't have a builder. I don't know how to subdivide. I don't know all the process and nonsense, but this is 5 years, 10 years, Joe and Jeff problem, right? When you need to learn what subdivision is and all the nonsense BS, great, then you'll learn it. But don't get too bogged down in the details. Just make sure that it ticks the boxes for that council area. And that was one of the questions that came out. How do I know if it's subdividable? So South Australia, minimum lot size is 600 square meters with an 18-meter frontage, allows you to 1 into 2, right? This council is, I can't remember what it was. I think it was 400 square meter lots and all that stuff, right? So you just need to learn the council where you're buying in. So find the purchase price that you've got, find the markets that stack up for that, jump on the phone with a town planner, do a lot of Googling, you'll be able to find it out, and then buy an asset that has that potential, because it's not valued like as well as it should be. Not agents don't necessarily know if they are subdividable or not. So you can buy a good property that has that to it. This deal is the deal that I am never going to be fine. I'm never going to be able to find this deal again. This, Jeff, you are never going to be able to find this deal again. So please do not come to me and ask for a deal like this. It was a 1 in a million, and it works out incredibly well. It is a Geelong unit block, but this is the deal where we spend $40,000 and we create almost $500,000 worth of equity. So I like it. So why Geelong, Jeff? Why are we buying in bloody Geelong?
Well, because I know Sydney's going to beat them in the grand final, hopefully this year if Geelong make it. That's why I want to, because of, No, but in all seriousness, so Geelong, me personally, I'm starting to look in that sort of pocket, and I've seen a couple of deals float up along in Geelong. But no, for me, I love that. Yeah, they have to be a little bit careful of the pockets. Like there's some low socioeconomic, which is fine. But you just need to be mindful. There's some sort of value around that sort of 450 to 550. This is not 450 to 550. This immense unit block that's been purchased. But what I love about it is that there's that, and I don't necessarily, this is not necessarily data driven, so I need to crunch numbers. But I almost compare Geelong to Wollongong. And you look at, you cannot buy like a half decent property in Wollongong for sort of 700, 750. Like you're almost pushing to 800. Whereas you can buy parts of Geelong for 500, 550. Now, I'm not saying they're both the same, because Wollongong's an hour to Sydney, Geelong's an hour to Melbourne, which I don't know. I'd still rather live close to Sydney. But Melbourne is still a global city, one of the most populous cities or is the biggest city in Australia. So it has all those fundamentals that are ticked there. It has that negative sentiment at the moment because of the land tax, because of all those rental things. It has lower yields, but spoiler, this one is yielding fantastically at the moment. So that's why I like it. Why do you like it, Joe? You own a few there now, I think.
Yeah. Geelong's a place I own several properties in, because it is a solid cracking market. It's low, high demand, low supply, and undervalued for what you're getting for. So why do we like this deal? It's a set and forget property, right? This is a multi-unit dwelling, so it is. We'll talk about the deal soon. We bought this property based on the yield. So when you're buying unit blocks, you're buying based on the yield, not necessarily what the value that you can create is. So there is potential to strata subdivide. So all we need to do is move an electricity meter. But let's jump into the story. So this story is, we bought this property off market. So again, it comes down to relationships. This was an off market deal that was offering this property. So you can see here, this was actually owned by a local business, like entrepreneur guy, who did kitchens and bathrooms. So all the kitchens and bathrooms in these units, except for one, I think, are all actually really nice. So that's awesome. So that's a plus. So no renovation needed. We did get negotiation on the purchase price, which I'll touch on, but it was only like $10,000 or something. So this is what the property is made up of. It is 3 one-bedroom properties and 1 two-bedroom properties. Okay, so this one here is the 2-bedroom, and then there's 1 one-bedroom, 2 one-bedroom, 3 one-bedrooms. So 3 one-bedrooms with car parking out the front. All making sense so far, right? We bought this property at a 6.35% yield. They wanted it to be $1.2 million. I said, there's no way we're getting to $1.2 million, because $1.2 million is 64,480 divided by $1.2 million. So this deal, that's a 5.3% yield. I'm like, mate, land taxes increased. This, all the problems with Victoria. We're not buying this investment property. It needs to be in a 6 and needs to be well into the 6s for us to accept it. So I said, how am I going to make this deal work? And this is how we kind of worked the numbers, right? So you go push back with the agent and negotiate in a way that is like, realistically, what would you do? Would you buy a property that's this negatively, that's this lower yield in Victoria? He's like, oh, blah, blah, blah. You get people on side. So that's how it works. Now, the way that this deal is structured is that it's one title. It's one property on one title. So you can't sell unit 1, unit 2, unit 3, unit 4. It has to be sold all is or nothing. So that's where the true value of this deal comes into its own. This is $1 million unit, right? We paid $1,015,000 for this unit. We got it under contract for $1,025,000, but these people had so much money that this deal was a blip on the radar, and they were wasting time. They didn't care. They weren't fussed about selling it. So we had to put so much pressure, and not pressure to say we're going to walk away, but like, great, let's get this deal going. What's happening? Let's move. It was very, very frustrating. So where did we see the value, Jeff? The value was a 3 one-bedroom property is value. So the way that this deal valued out is 3 one-bedrooms are $240,000 each. And then 1 two-bedroom was valued at $295,000 to equal $1,015,000.
Yep.
The beauty is, in Geelong right now, in the market that we're in, you can buy a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom, if strata subdivide, for $340,000. If you buy a 2-bedroom, that's $430,000 to $460,000. Where did I get this number? Next door, this property right here just sold for whatever that number was, for 340 for a 1-bed, and then they had another one for 430 next door, which is the exact same block that has already been strata subdivided. Some unit blocks cannot be strata subdivided because they don't have firewalls. So what I did is I got the pest and building man to go up. He went into the roof, and the wall went all the way to the end and got it fire rated. At the same time, we were doing our due diligence. We were doing our due diligence with council. We were doing our due diligence with strata subdivide people, and we got the AOK that this could be done. And this deal, from a numbers perspective, I kind of messed these numbers up here. It's essentially $1,440,000. We paid $1,015,000. So we are spending $40,000 to get $500,000 in value. Let that sink in for a little while. We paid $181,000 of cash. The rent is $64,480, which is a 6.35% yield. The new value is actually $1,440,000 conservatively, which is a strata subdivided lift up of $510,900, $500,000 in uplift. Wait, is that right?
No, that's not quite right.
Sorry, I've messed my numbers up there. Sorry,
it's 395,000, Joe.
Well, no, don't base it off the 410 because it's 1,440,000 minus the purchase, so $425,000 of uplift. That's putting $1 in and getting $12.75 back. But instead of putting $1 in, we're putting $40,000 in, and we're getting $425,000 back. So why are we not doing this straight away? Is we don't need the equity straight away, and we wouldn't need to sell these properties straight away. So what are we going to do right now? We need to physically move. The electricity meter to access for everybody else, and then we need to build little fences along here so that we have private courtyards. And then that's it. And then we get our strata subdivision tick of approval. That's it. Happy days. Cool. So in the midterm, there's nothing really that we can do to this property. It's already renovated. It's a set and forget. We're getting rent right now. It doesn't matter. Long term, spend the $40,000, get that instant equity. Downside, extra council rates. What's the high level? What's the highlight of this? We have a $2,070,000 property portfolio bringing in $113,000 of net rent. That is pretty cool. It took us 30 days and 8 years. 30 days and 8 years to be able to get, to be able to do that.
So in terms of structure, Joe, from my understanding is these have been all bought in separate structures, I believe.
Correct. And they're all bought under a corporate trustee, which allows you to do whatever you want with them.
How far away are you from the 150K cash flow? The question everybody wants to ask, I'm sure.
Question, Vishal. Thank you very much for asking that. The answer is we're actually not that close whatsoever. So let's share my screen if you can click that button, Jeff. So what are the portfolio challenges? So we've just showed you we bought a $2 million property portfolio. It's got $113,000. We put in $407,000 of cash and equity into this deal. Okay, we entered in $407,000. The equity that is existing in this property portfolio is $299,000. Today, we have lost $100,000. So we are down money, right? So don't obviously, if we sold all of this stuff, we'd be able to sell it for more. If we did the strata subdivision, we'd be able to do it for more. But on paper, as of right now, if we factor in what the purchase prices are, we are down $100,000. And partly the reason of why this is because we have on the the Melbourne 3 to 4 conversion, we have a 7.29% interest rate. We have a Resi Mac on our Townsville at 6.69, and we have a CBA. I don't know how we got a first tier lender for the Geelong unit.
Trust. They'll do it, but they'll just charge you.
7.26%. So the beauty of this is, right, that's scary. $61,000 negative a year going forward for the rest of your life. Not really. Like when interest rates, we've kind of peaked at interest rates, when interest rates start to come down and they go down to like a 5.5, what will this portfolio look like? Negative 30,000. So it's negative 30,000 if it goes down to a 5.5% interest rate. Also, if you're going to be paying down debt. So that's
so I suppose, and this is what a lot of investors are struggling with. This is not a challenge unique to us. A lot of people are sort of looking at even your average sort of 500K property in the suburbs in a metro sort of region of a capital city, which you're not buying in many capital cities for that price. But let's just say a large regional thing for 500K, it's likely going to be still 10K negative. Is that what you're sort of seeing from unless you're buying a significantly higher gross yield property, like a 9%. And even then, like how much growth are you going to necessarily see from that? So in the higher interest rate environment, if you're borrowing at sort of 80 to 90%, you are going to sort of be stumping up about 10 to 15K roughly per year, depending on property price and the rent. So it's a reality of buying. And I suppose then over time, in 3, 5, 10 years time, as the rents increase, as if you need to, we can sort of start to unfreeze some of that frozen equity that Joe talks about, that we talk about. But yeah, that's the reality of property investing and building a large portfolio so quickly. Anybody?
Yeah. And this is why we're focused in on growth. Like we could easily go out there and spend this $500,000 in a market that is higher cash flow, and we wouldn't be hit so hard with that. But the problem is there's not going to be as much growth. We were able to secure a $1 million block of units that is a 6.63% yield. That's incredible in Victoria, that then we can turn into $500,000. So for me, it's more of like, what is it? It's the cost of doing business. Interest rates will come down eventually, but that's why we have $100,000 of negative cash buffer. So we've got we've got 1 year. What have we got? We got 1 year and a 6 months of negative cash flow. And we hope it doesn't go down. But that's one thing. So someone's written here, like, is that including all expenses? Yes. The $61,300 is including all the expenses factored in. So a lot, that's how that works. So let's talk about the rent situation and where are we on this strategy journey that we're trying to get to $150,000 of passive income. So the rent that we have is $113,000. That's how much incoming rent that we're getting. Now, the reason why we spoke about net rent, where did I put my net rent? Net yield. I put net yield on here because that's what's the most important thing when you're thinking about retiring, right? It's the net yield that you're going to get for your portfolio. So the net is the property to judge it against itself without any loans attached to it. So we're getting $113,000, get rid of the loans, and we completely pay off all the debt. We will be paying property expenses, insurance, council rates, taxes, all of that stuff. And then the net rent would be $70,000. So the difference between $113,000 and $70,000 is all the property expenses and everything that go along with it. Property management fees, property maintenance, all of that is within there. So it might look like we're only, $40,000 away from our target, but we're not. We're at $70,000. We need another $79,000 in net rent to hit $150,000 of passive income.